listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way. Welcome to The Adventuring Party. I'm Savagemick.
And I'm Mr.E.
Well, it is the morning after the night before, Mr.E. We pushed out an extra special, extra hopeful, extra jubilant episode ahead of the HeroQuest announcement by Hasbro and Avalon Hill yesterday.
It's starting to feel a little bit more like you pushed out an episode right in front of the hype train and got hit by it.
I woke up this morning. I came back to consciousness this morning. In the early hours, there were ravens cawing outside the window. I was lying on the floor, surrounded by empty whiskey bottles and dungeon tiles. I don't even know what they're from. I don't recognize them. I don't know where they came from. It was that kind of night. Just trying to hold on to the last slivers of what might have been. So, yeah. We played a lot of HeroQuest back in the day, didn't we?
We did. Right, to give some context as to what HeroQuest means to me. HeroQuest was my introduction to gaming. A quick check on Wikipedia says it was released in 1989. And that makes sense to me because I recall you and I playing this while we still lived in the same town.
That's right, yeah.
That would have changed in about 90. So I suspect I got a copy of this for like Christmas 89. And yeah, you know, it launched certainly me, I believe you, into this whole gaming thing. Games Workshop were involved and made the genius stroke of including one of their little advertising leaflets, one of the little fold-up jobs in the box, and that led us down a whole other rabbit hole. Yeah, it was, you know, it's the Genesis game for me. It is what started everything. So HeroQuest means a lot. Now, I haven't played it in a very long time. Let's not put a number on that for the sake of my own.
I think we pretty much dated ourselves at this point.
Yeah, but also, no more than yourself, I now also have, you know, a small boy who lives in my house and calls me daddy. And he is at that age where, you know, I saw this countdown go up and I was like, oh, look, if that game comes out again, if I can go and grab a copy of that, I can sit down with my kid and I can play this and I can give him some of the formative experience that I had. So yeah, man, I was very excited.
Okay. Okay, nothing's ever going to be okay again. So yeah, we played it when we were about like 10 years old. I got a copy soon after I'd been exposed to it on your bedroom floor. I can even remember seeing the board games lined up in that toy shop in Sligo all those years ago, and there was HeroQuest on the shelves. The shelves that towered Tim Burton-esque above our tiny little heads were stacked with wonders, but here was something that stood out even in that Aladdin's cave. That slim, broad copy of HeroQuest, and all the wonders it contained, all the wonders that are pretty much entirely recreated in this new version.
Yeah,
I say new version, but well,
that's the thing. So since the countdown ended, Hasbro have made live their webpage on Hasbro Pulse, which is basically Kickstarter, but for just Hasbro. And they have a ton of material up there for the game. So we'll throw a link into the show notes and people can go and browse and follow along as we chat about it. But looking at it, there's a lot of material there to look at and see. This is very much a case of the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there are lots of things that tick a lot of the boxes I wanted to see ticked here. There are things which are, that could have been done quite a bit better, or they could have put some work in here. And then there's some absolute horrible stuff in there too.
Yeah, that's not a bad way of looking at it. Good, bad, and ugly.
Digging into it a bit.
Okay, yeah, and like I've got to say, there's at the very top, and this is kind of this is sort of admiration for the process or the professionalism. Their countdown timer hit 0. Their trailer went live. They sort of fed you in all the information you want to know almost immediately. They really left nothing to surprise us in terms of the game itself. And did a nice kind of trailer that they played. All of that went really slick, real well, as I say. Good show. But yeah, let's kick into the game itself. So
sure.
I've got the Pulse site open in front of me. Yep. I'm sure you do too.
Me too.
We're less than 18 hours since the launch, and
looking at it, they're a shade under the a shade under $900,000 of the target of 1 million. I know in the first 30 minutes they got in about $450,000. So there were plenty of people watching that countdown and willing to jump in straight away.
A bunch of us were in a party chat here while we watched the announcement, and I think it was Hito who was like, yeah, that number is going to go up real quick just as soon as people get their Hasbro Pulse accounts signed up. And he was right. It's like the only delay in money just shooting into this project was, oh hell, I got to put an email address in here. I hadn't encountered
Hasbro Pulse before. I'm told that now it's the same as Kickstarter. So if people know that, they'll know what this does. But it's an in-house version. I've been told that it's mostly used for what Hasbro consider to be particularly niche products, and it's kind of a market test. Is there enough interest for this to be worth our while because we're a giant company? And I guess $1 million of sales in the first 24 hours is probably going to be enough to get this done for them.
I know there's people who will damn it from a great height. Oh, why does a big company like this need to kickstart something? And I have some sympathy for that. Especially, HeroQuest. It's not like Hasbro have to go very far to find someone who'll tell them, HeroQuest will sell, mate. Reissue HeroQuest. People want it. They've only been talking about it for 30 years.
Yeah, it is surprising. It did surprise me that if this is their system for niche products we need to kind of market test, that they bothered with HeroQuest, because it was always going to go, wasn't it?
Maybe they couldn't figure out a way to make it into a Monopoly clone. Which is, really, walk into a toy store in this part of the world and go look at the board game section, and there is just a wall of varieties of Monopoly depending on which football team you follow, or which soap opera you follow, or which flavour of ice cream you like. It is both moronic and sickening. But we'll leave that aside for the moment. Okay, so this is how they've chosen to deliver this project, and so far, so good. Let's
talk about the good. Now, for me, the good starts off with, this is HeroQuest. This is the original game. This is exactly the game that we played, and it means that it is the perfect nostalgia set, because that is a big part of this. HeroQuest, as it was when it was released, when you put it side by side with modern designed games, the mechanics aren't going to be great, but that's not why people are going to buy this game. They're going to buy it for the nostalgia. They're going to buy it for the reasons I wanted to buy it, which is to play the game I played as a kid with my own kids. And I think it hits that bang on the nose. I think it's going to suit that absolutely perfectly. The only things as clearly changed are the model sculpts, and the model sculpts look great. They look really, really nice. They're nicely sculpted, good poses. They're modern style. The Kickstarter versions means if you get the bonus where you get alternate genders for all the heroes. You get extra guys. Lots of cool stuff. Updates to things like the Gargoyle, who was always a very cool and intimidating figure, but if you look at it now, it's an extremely static looking model. And the new one is it's obviously the same character, but there's a bit more life to it, a bit more.
It's roughly the same pose.
It is roughly the same pose, but there's a bit of movement in the legs. There's some dynamism to the tail.
Yeah.
It's not the statue that the previous one was. Their goblin design is pretty good. They've got those huge, big Pathfinder-esque heads with classic GW, great big beaky noses.
I imagine Wayne Reynolds is looking at this morning going, those look awfully familiar. Because that design of Goblin is something he brought in when he was, or he's probably still working on Pathfinder stuff. He's
and all the sets of the orcs and the zombies and the skeletons. There's some variety there. It's not the same.
Way more variety.
It's not the same mold.
Much better poses and nice callbacks. In many cases, a lot of the sculpts are very nice callbacks to the original sculpts, but also with pretty updated texture detail and poses. I especially like the kind of the hip shake of that zombie, and the fact that he's armed. He's armed and he's ready to do some damage.
The only major departure is the Fimir have been replaced by these big fishmen abominations, which, given that if you try and delve into the background of what Fimir are, it gets very problematic very quickly, and it's not a surprise to see them being replaced.
Oh yeah, we won't mention it here, but anyone who wants to hit the wikis will find out more than they ever wanted to know about the Fimir. Yeah, these are sort of more Saugen.
Yeah.
What are those fish guys called? Yeah, abominations they're called anyways, and they work perfectly well. And Dread instead of Chaos. Dread Knights, Dread Magic, Dread Sorcerer.
And then all the furniture is... The furniture is... It's almost too close to the original, I would say. That weapons rack and those tables, they look...
Yeah, the table ends especially.
I think those are exactly the same weapons on the weapon rack. I don't think anything has changed.
In the same order, pretty much. They've got the tomb, which is a nice update. I think they've kept almost exactly the same top for the tomb. Again, you mentioned this is a very nostalgia-heavy set in some respects. I think it's great. The models, I would give them an absolute A+. Great sculpts. The diversity is good. The gender stuff is good because we both have little boys, but there's someone out there who's got a little girl who I think would love to play this. But is going to would look at the old set and go, "Where am I in this?" And now we've got female orcs as well. My wife looked over my shoulder at that last night, and her only comment was, "Snoo snoo." they're quite they're quite intimidating looking women. Robert R. Crumb must be quite happy with all of that.
And then, but then we have to move on to the next stage, which is the bad. And right from the outset, while the models have had a wonderful overhaul, it looks like the card art has all been updated. The art of the board looks exactly as I remember it.
It is exactly the same.
Yeah. Nothing has changed. It's just this weird mishmash of colors which serves a purpose but looks so weird and disjointed when you try and put it into a context of modern design of how things look.
It's fun. I don't mind the layout of the HeroQuest board. I mind that it's a board. I mean, this is a game that would have benefited from a modular tile set almost instantly, and die cut, press out card elements are, completely standard these days.
Yep, that's true.
But look, this is because everything about the game system is exactly the same. There's 30 years of game design and a legion of games that owe their existence to HeroQuest. Yet, and you cannot copyright game design either. You can't copyright rule sets. There was absolutely nothing to stop Hasbro from updating some, if not all, of the rules for HeroQuest. Yet they haven't done a damn tick. And the board is kind of, in a weird way, the art equivalent of that. Anything they didn't have to change, they don't appear to have changed. That board should have been entirely re-illustrated.
And what you're saying there about the game rules, that I would lump into the bad again.
worst.
I remember having wonderful times playing this game, but I've had a poke at it in more recent years, and oh boy, is it rough around the edges. I think the standout is if you look at the cards for the heroes that they have up on the site here, you still have dice for movement. And
roll to move.
This will be released in
2021. Let's just randomly find out how far I stumble. And then, because I rolled a 3 rather than a 4, I'm going to end up going onto that pit trap or whatever. It's like, what's going on?
So there was scope there to update things, to modernize, to clean it up. It wouldn't have been difficult to just keep it nice and simple so that kids can play this, because that's really important, but still just smooth it out, modernize it even a little bit in places. And it looks like they didn't. Or they haven't. We should note that this is all pre-release material. I guess they could change stuff. But
I think they've shown us enough. They've shown their hand enough with this in terms of the stats on cards and the components that it strikes me that they're not changing a damn thing.
No, why would they?
Haven't bothered their bonnet.
In 18 hours, people have thrown $900,000 at this. Why on earth would they change anything? It's working.
Okay, is there? We're on bad now. We're on bad. We've covered the good.
We're currently on bad. Yeah.
What else? I'm seething. The more I think about this, the angrier I get. And I think I said that my baseline was that they re-release HeroQuest, and they've done that. And okay, that's to the credit. Some of the things I'm seething about have nothing to do with what's actually in the box, but we'll get to that. We'll get to the ugly.
We'll get to the ugly.
and oh boy, and we've got about 15 minutes in. It gets ugly, folks. I don't have a lot of nice things to say after this. Art style, I kind of love the fact. I'm going to go back to good for a second, but bad depending on who's listening. I kind of love the fact that you look at that box and it's like, that is HeroQuest. I recognize it instantly. If I was moving past it fast, being chased, I'd recognize that as HeroQuest, because they have taken the original box art and they have used the composition of that and the furniture, the layout of that, and just handed it to an artist and said, give me a new version of this that matches the kind of miniatures that we're making and the art style that sell today. And I kind of like that. I think it's good. Like you'll get people who will complain that it's unrealistic, it's more cartoonish. I would invite you to do a side-by-side comparison, and you will discover that there is a lot of technical ability in terms of how this artwork is produced that does not exist in the original. Take a look at the Barbarian sword, for example. In the original, it is a pale blue steel, blue to white, that doesn't appear to have any regard for the environment it's in, the lighting it's in. Whoever produced this piece of artwork knows that metal reflects the colours and light around it and has reproduced that. So anyone who's going to tell me this is less realistic, I think is really wearing very selective nostalgia tinted glasses. Now, the chunkiness of the proportions, things like that, yes, you're going to fall into different camps on that. But I don't think this is a bad piece of artwork. I don't think any of the artwork they presented is bad. In fact, I like most of it. Yep. And I'm amused at the places they've had to change it. But for the most part, yeah, the updated black and white stuff that you can find on the announcement page is great. They've got in a comic book illustrator, clean black and white. They've rethought some of the artwork in terms of making it actually match what the card is meant to do. Because there were some weird mismatches on the card art in the original set. But that's it. The wording is, as far as I know, exactly the same. Everything else but exactly the same. Good update there. Bad. I don't know. We need to move. I think we need to move on to ugly. I'm really ticked off the board, though. I'm really ticked off.
Before we go on to ugly, I'm just going to throw out a couple of goods that we kind of glossed over because they're down in the extras and the unlocks. If you look at the stretch goals as in Kickstarter speak, there's a Warlock hero at 1.2 million, which means that's a new hero. A Warlock. Yeah, Warlocks are they are so hot right now.
How are they going to divide up 10? 5 and 5 probably. So 5 health, 5 mind, 5 body, 5 mind. I imagine something like that.
Maybe. Who knows?
Because if you look at all the other heroes, they've got that stretch between. Was it 6-4 for the elf, 7-3 for the dwarf, 8-2, and then 4-6. So yeah, 5-5. I'm a little curious as to why they chose that style. Like it appears to be some sort of chambermaid kind of get up she's in.
Yeah, I don't know, but
it's slightly odd,
but that's nice to see that they're at least considering new stuff. Warlock is not a reprint of something that has existed before. And then further down,
a druid character as well.
Yeah, they've talked about a druid. There's another one.
We don't.
Further down, a new quest book by Stephen Baker, Prophecy.
Yeah, new quests. Cool.
And Stephen Baker is the original creator of the original game, so that's a cool thing to see. New material rather than just reprints. That's great. Let's rant.
I imagine he would have liked to have some new components to work with, but he's not getting those. So he is returning to the exact same tool set he had 30 years ago, I'm sure it must be nice to sort of roll back to a beloved game. He says so himself in the blurb that he's written, but there's a pub conversation to be had with him somewhere. It's like, what would you have done differently, Stephen? Here's a list. We can talk about that in a second. The Ugly. It's a beautiful product.
Yep.
So I can't fault the product itself.
And
so what's
when
ugly
I
about
clicked
this project?
through, and you know what, I was ready to. What I was really, really looking for was not a Kickstarter. Was our new game is now live. It is shipping. It's going to be on the shelves. I would have been down the shop next week, grabbed one off the shelf, and it would have gone into the attic until Christmas for my kid.
And they call me a rabid optimist. Okay.
So that was my here is what I wanted. What we got, obviously not the same thing. It's going to take a year or two or however long these things take.
Well, they're saying this time next year.
But I was still ready. I saw it and I was like, okay, so $100 for the box, $150 for the box and the next 2 expansions. Those aren't, it's not cheap, but it's not ludicrous. I could maybe go for that. And then I realized, no, I can't. Because I don't live in the US or Canada.
Well, this is the ugliest thing about it, isn't it? This is only, this leg of the project release, which runs for the next 45 days, is only shipping to the US and Canada. So if you've got shekels to spend, but you're outside of the continental US, don't bother. Don't show up. It doesn't matter how much you love HeroQuest. I mean, you can do things like get shipping, virtual addresses or postbox shipping, things like that. But that's going to, again, add to the money you're going to throw in. I've seen some people balk at the price for the quality of stuff you're getting. That's a big, thick box. I think it's fine. It would have been much more attractive, again, if you had a modular board, which is just another element you can reuse in other sorts of games that branch off from HeroQuest.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the price at all. Like, $100, there's 72 models in the set.
You're counting a lot of doors in that, but doors are important too.
They
you're
are
going to need them if you're going to run this kind of game.
Even just in terms of figures. Okay, it's not Reaper Bones cheap, but it's
pretty bloody close.
Yeah, it's still pretty good value as far as I can see. Although I don't pay that much attention to board game releases and the value they're in these days. So maybe I'm wrong on that, but
it doesn't matter. We can't buy it.
That is true.
We find it very hard to buy it.
And I have been led to believe if you are in Canada, the shipping cost is $130
on top of the.
That's after you've bought it.
What?
Because it's a great big heavy box.
So this is where the wheels really come off for me. Okay, there's two places the wheels come off. It's fine that it's HeroQuest. It could have been HeroQuest with 30 years of design understanding under its wings, and not only simple enough to teach my kids, but entertaining enough and new enough and fresh enough to bring me back to the game. The fact I can't buy it, okay, that's presumably at some point it might, if Hasbro deem it to have done well enough.
I believe this is this. I see. I don't think this is entirely in Hasbro's hands. I think this is all part of the 30-year licensing knife fight.
They don't have rights for it outside of.
I believe
North America.
my limited understanding here is that they only have the rights for it in the US and Canada, and that's why they're not offering it outside.
Well, there you go, folks. Remember, go and scowl at your pet lawyer, wherever they might be, skulking, ruining things at the moment. It's a side note, but Chaosium, as they've portrayed it very generously, ceded the rights to the HeroQuest brand, the name, to allow this project to go ahead. Now, they let slip at some point and say that they sold it back to Hasbro and Avalon Hill, which means that they're sitting on a chunk of money today, a big chunk of Hasbro money. They're rolling around in Hasbro money like it's Monopoly money at the moment. If they have any sense at all, they will have squeezed quite a good deal out of the company for the name alone, which means they're rebranding all of their HeroQuest stuff that is set in the world of Glorantha, which Greg Stafford had a hand in all those years ago. I think they've cut the price of all their books that still carry the HeroQuest brand for the moment, so you might check out Chaosium if you're looking to pick up some of that stuff, digital or hardback. So there's some good stuff coming out of this deal. But yeah, yep. I think they're rebranding as Quest World with the same horrible sort of. It's not for me. It's awful. It looks like a grognard kind of wargame company logo. That is to say, a couple of letters is a very simple shape and not much else. The exact one I can't quite bring to mind at the moment. The ugly, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I'm here and there on the price. I would have happily have put that money down for a game with these kinds of components and a new updated rule set. The fact that we can't get it in North America, Hasbro have worldwide distribution. They have manufacturing across the planet, where it's not as if this stuff's getting made in North America.
Yeah,
it'll all be coming in on a slow boat from the East, China. So I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get what the thinking is. I understand that there's somebody has run the numbers and this makes sense to them. But yeah, I see a lot of this pledge stuff, and I think they comfortably know that they're going to get through all their pledges. Like 2 million is perfectly attainable. I think putting models, new sort of variant models ahead of new material to run in the game is cheeky. Perhaps it shows where they think the market for this is in the sculpts, because I know there's a lot of stuff that shows up in Kickstarter that purports to be a board game, which is really a kind of a relatively inexpensive way to get a very nice model collection.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I feel like they're taking those lessons from what's out there in the market at the moment, and yeah, I feel a little bit adrift on this one. I'm a little disappointed.
Well, that's the thing. I think they've created a product that hits the nostalgia target spot on, because it is exactly what we played, and it will sell on the basis of that. Like I say, if I had the opportunity to grab it off a shelf here in town, I would do that. I'd bring it home, I'd play it with the boy, and we'd have a great time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we're not disappointed that they didn't update it, they didn't polish up those rough edges, they didn't modernize it, and it doesn't mean we're not shocked and appalled that you've got to be in the US or Canada to actually buy it. And
really, if you're Canadian, you're probably crying into your poutine today. That's a hefty shipping cost, which means it's probably going to be an incredibly niche, or it's going to be an incredibly rare product next year. And I can only imagine that the scalpers are already pouring that money in.
Yeah,
with an eye
and
boosting.
I like shipping even in the US. I believe is still fairly hefty. I know one guy said he jumped in on it, but he was paying he went for the Mythic tier, which is the $150 tier, but he was paying the guts of another $50 on top because he had to pay shipping and tax.
Yikes.
On top of it. So it is, if you're going for that Mythic tier and have to account for those factors, you're still pushing up towards $200. And that is getting very expensive, even with all the expansions and so on. But if it takes off, if the fact that they've shown some willingness to add new material in the Warlock and the Druid, and the new adventure book from Stephen Baker? Yes. If this sells well for them, if they decide to put it into shops on shelves, fantastic. Bring it on. But please, Hasbro, do that.
Yeah, get it in front of us. We may never quite recapture the delight of our youth, but there's plenty of young proto gamers out there who might get a real kick out of playing a game like this. Although, for my money, I think I'd very quickly move my young on to a game that doesn't have roll to move. It's like,
sure. Well, you know what? There's one for people to send in to us. For those of us who are getting to the stage where we're introducing our kids to these kind of games, what are the best ones? What is today's HeroQuest? I've got a boy who's about to turn 6. I've got a couple of years where I can sit him down now and introduce him to stuff. He can start playing these kind of things. Get in touch through all of our various ways and let us know if you've done this. If your kids are a little bit older than mine, what did you sit down and play with them?
Yeah, in the absence of affordable HeroQuest, which actually, when you add in shipping, I mean, if I hit eBay now, I can pick up old HeroQuest for about the same money. So, and I've got all my D&D miniatures I can throw at it, and I've got some tiles and things kicking around which I can kind of amend the board with. So it's I think it's certainly reignited my passion for that kind of dungeon delving board game. But as disappointed as I am in some aspects of the mechanics here, it's not like I don't have choices. So I'm probably going to spend the next couple of days kind of looking again at things like Rangers of Shadowdeep, because that's got a simple system that I can explain fairly quickly. But can I stick it? Can I get it in a dungeon? Maybe I can.
Like if I was going to be playing the dungeon crawly game myself with you and others of our own age, Blackstone Fortress is fantastic for that kind of thing, even though it is sci-fi rather than fantasy. But specifically for something as an intro game, as a first fantasy adventure game for kids, that's what I'm interested right now in, because simple, HeroQuest was that game for me back in the day. Yeah. We let's face it, our kids are going to be nothing like us. They'll probably be DJs. Yeah, that seems about as far as from us as possible. DJs, let's go with that. Professional.
So they'll professional. So we'll leave it there for now, folks. Obviously, come and find us on Discord. I'm gonna put this up right now with very little editing, just to follow up from our episode yesterday. So you're getting 2 episodes this week, for the price of one disappointed grognard. And thanks for joining us for this kind of review, post-match analysis. Thank you, Mr.E, for coming on and tempering my howling anguish with a little bit of realism. And but for now, this party's over. Thank you for listening to The Adventuring Party. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can head on over to SpeakPipe and drop us a line. Or you can join us on our Discord server, where we keep the party going after hours. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, or Twitter, or you can email the hosts at party@theadventuringparty.net. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license, but you probably knew that already. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Goodbye.